So it's been a long time since I've did a blog or anything else, and I've been wanting to talk about Containerd because I don't think people realize how powerful it is and all the things that you can do with it, and the way the APIs are split up that enables a lot of things. And so I didn't want kind of like a boring blog post or like a boring video going into architecture. I wanted to kind of show off the cool things that you could do and then drill down and show how to do it. So I have this project that I've been building for myself. It's called Boss. It doesn't mean anything. I just thought it was funny. And it's basically how I want to run containers on my servers. And it has various things like how do I bootstrap servers, what type of networking, stuff like that. And I'm mostly building it for myself. I don't expect other people to use it. It's just something for me, and I'm not taking it seriously. I'm just posting the code publicly so other people can find inspiration or figure out how to do things. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I have a server here with Containerd and my boss binary on it and nothing else. So we need to get this server bootstrapped. So I have a few things that I want. I want all the containers on my network to have private IPs so that I can use console and DNS to find them. So I have a CNI network configuration here, and I want to use Mac VLAN, and I want to use my network's router for the DHCP server to dish out IPs. So with boss, we have a sudo boss init, and I want to run CNI. I want to start the DHCP server, and I also want my network loaded in here. And so this init command, what it's doing is it's using a new feature in Containerd 1.2 called install. I don't know, bad feature names, but it's using the existing image and distribution system to pull down images with binaries in them and install them on your system to kind of bootstrap your container infrastructure. So this here got my CNI image with the CNI plugins, the Mac VLAN plugin, bridge, and all those installed, and in a Containerd managed op directory. So now CNI is good to go. I also want build kit because boss has a boss build, and build kit's pretty amazing. So we can do sudo boss init build kit, and it's using the same infrastructure to get all this stuff going. And now build kit's installed, and then finally we need to start the boss agent so that networking, service restarts, stuff like that happens. So we'll do sudo boss. I want this service, or I want my agent to use console for service registration. And then I also want it to use console as the name server for networking. So I'm going to put in my console IP here. And now we have our agent running. So now we got networking CNI set up, we got build kit, stuff like that. Boss should be ready to go. So as far as running containers, I use Toml because I hate YAML. It makes my Vim slow, and I think Toml's super nice. But we have a Toml file here for Redis. We have our ID in here. We have the image. It's a 3.2 stretch. We have some resource information and then service information. And so you can have multiple services, because if you think about something like a gRPC service, you have the gRPC address, and then you can also have a Prometheus metrics address. So you'd have multiple of these with a service name like gRPC, its port, then Prometheus or metrics, and then its port, and yada yada yada. So it's kind of not saying there's multiple binaries running in a container, but it's realistically there can be multiple ports, multiple kind of services inside of a single container. And then I just have a label dev for this. So we'll go ahead and start this. So sudo boss create Redis, and this will download our Redis image. Boss is fully implemented on top of containerd. It has no state. It uses containerd's metadata and content system to store any state. And now that we have this, let's sudo boss list, and we have our Redis image running. So now that we have this going, we can jump back into the browser here, and if I go over to console and refresh this, we can see I have my Redis here with a dev label that was just started. So I have like automatic service registration, health checks, stuff like that. And then if I go back into the console, we can connect up using regular DNS, I guess. So well, actually, we'll go to my desktop here, and because I'm using Mac VLAN, we'll make a query to that console service to get the Redis service DNS. I don't have console consuming or outputting DNS on my entire network because like I only want service DNS lookups and discovery happening within the cluster, but I can still query it, and I can see on my system we have a Redis here running at 103. So it's a IP on my network through Mac VLAN, so I can do Redis CLI-H and connect up to that from any computer within my network. So let's go ahead and set name boss, get name, and save this. So now we have a Redis. It's got this name key saved as boss, and then we can exit. And if I go back on the server, let's say like Redis 3.2 is old. Like I don't want to use this anymore. I want 4.0, but I also want instead of stretch, it was 27 meg. I want to run 4.0 on Alpine. So what I can do with boss is sudo boss upgrade or update. No, it's upgrade. I forget my own stuff. So I can upgrade this. I want to upgrade Redis to docker.io, and let me look at this. I think we can get a 4.0 Alpine. Yeah, 4.0 Alpine. Redis 4.0 Alpine. Okay, so we'll do an upgrade on this running container, and it pulled down the new image, and it's 10 meg now instead of 27. And if we do a sudo boss list again, we can see our first one, the image came up as 3.2 stretch, and now we do a list again, and it's on 4.0 Alpine. But the cool part is that if I go back over to my host here and oops, it got a new DNS 104, we'll reconnect again, get name, we have our value. So it did an in-place upgrade. With containerd snapshotters, you have total control of how it works, and so we overlaid the RW layer on top of a brand new image so that you can just do in-place upgrades. You don't have to like delete a container, bring it back up, and it's super fast within containerd because it's just a metadata switch, and you can create different revisions. So you can see the code for this in the flux file, like the flux capacitor from Back to the Future. It's kind of like a time machine for containers, so we can go forwards and backwards in time. So I'll reconnect here, and I'll del name and get name. It's deleted. Let's save this and exit and go back into my server. So let's say we did an upgrade and it's like foobar, it deleted our Redis, and now we're hosed. So what we can do is we can just say sudo boss rollback Redis, and like you can see it returns instantly because it's just a metadata switch on what snapshotter is being used in boss. And we're back at a 3.2 stretch, and I'll just guess that we're at 105 on the IP. Get name, and we have it back. So like I created a little, it's like if you think of Time Machine on OS X, you have all those little points in time that you can roll forward and backwards to on a file and get it. Well, you can do the same with a container with containerd. So that's kind of like a whirlwind way of how it works. You can also sudo boss stop Redis, and this will stop it, and it'll also update console that it's in an unhealthy state. It's in node service maintenance and stuff. So you have all that cool stuff like public IPs, blah blah blah. So now that we kind of seen features, I'll kind of show you like networking, how the networking works, and it's super simple, and we'll finish it within a couple minutes. So everyone always asks, like, containerd doesn't support networking, how do you do networking? And it's really easy. You do networking however you want to do it. And so in Boss, I use CNI, and we have a really nice CNI library within containerd that works well. It returns errors well, and you can configure it programmatically. Like, it'll handle configs from various locations. So you can say CNI new, you'll get this CNI struct back where you have various things where you can load options, remove a container, set up a container, get the status of the CNI networks. And then whenever you go to create a container, we'll go into our start change here. And so in containerd, you'll get a container and you'll tell it, hey, create me a new task. And this task you get back is a live running container in a created state. It hasn't launched the user's process like the Redis server. It's blocked on a pipe running the like containerized init process, waiting for you to do things. And so when it's in this created state, we already have all the Linux namespaces set up, things like that. So we have the PID, we have the network namespace, so we can use our CNI library, which we have here, and tell it to set up. We get our container ID, and then the path to the network namespace from our task.pid method here. And then the results come back, and the results have the IP for the interface that's set up. I grab the IP4 and then register that into console for all the services in the container. And then once I have networking set up, it's registered, we can call task.start on the containerd task, and this will start the Redis server. And it makes sure that you don't have any races where you can do networking and pre-set up during this create phase. And then once you're done, you can start the user's process, and you don't have to rely on hooks to handle that stuff. Like, I've never been a big fan of hooks. and this kind of orchestrating this flow where you have control between the processes and not hooks in between that are doing who knows what. And I just think it's a better way to code and kind of more robust. So after that, the task is started and we're good to go and stuff like that. So that's kind of the end of this first video on like Boss, some cool features, kind of how networking is implemented, and then in others I'll show you how the snapshot time machine, the whole flux capacitor works, and we'll go into other things within Containerd to kind of show you how cool it is, and like how you can build all the stuff that I'm showing here in Boss. That's all done on the Containerd client. It's a standard Containerd server that like any person could install and stuff like that. So hope you liked it. Provide me any feedback, and see you in the next one.